Skate the Infinity is about a secret underground skateboarding race where clocking your opponent in the face with your longboard and giving them permanent brain damage is a completely valid winning strategy. In the universe of Skate, the only rule is the rule of cool. Here, the laws of physics are mere suggestions. Pay no mind to the concepts of friction, mass, velocity, or inertia. Newton's laws have no power here. So long as skateboarding Dio can salsa dance while simultaneously speeding downhill at 80 miles per hour, anything is possible. This guy dropkicks a rock to get a speed boost in an act that should instantly shatter both of his tibias, and this guy has modded his skateboard with ChatGPT.
Carla, calculate angle.
Copy, master.
He could have become Batman with this technology, but instead he chose the power of the board over vigilante justice, and honestly, I love that for him. Although the skateboard no jutsu might not be grounded in realism, Skate nails the authenticity of the mundane, specifically the relationships between its characters. The best episodes are the ones featuring the gang just hanging out and being goofy together. Watching these skateboarding idiots fills me with a sense of wistful nostalgia for the dumbassery of my high school days. Skate just masterfully evokes within me the feeling of exhilarating freedom and endless possibility that comes with a late summer night out with your friends. But is the cast's chemistry friendship or something more? Is this bromance or romance? Skate debuted years ago, but questions about its queer representation have been a topic of debate for a while. Are these characters nothing but platonic friends? Is this show just queerbaiting, churning out shipping fodder to fuel the ever-hungry Wattpad fanfiction machine? Or is the foundation of the entire show built on an allegory about repressing, discovering, and accepting sexuality and finding a home in queer spaces? I'll present the evidence. You decide. This video contains major spoilers for Skate the Infinity. Skate is an original anime created and directed by Hiroko Utsumi, an animator and director who is also known for her work on Free and Banana Fish. All these shows are filled to the brim with fan service directed towards a female audience. There are pretty boys and adolescent angst galore. However, Skate was a little different. Its high-energy action, impressive production value, and its focus on a male-dominated sport meant that it was destined to be marketed towards a mainstream audience. Skate is about Reki, a skateboarding-obsessed high schooler who attends a secret and dangerous underground skateboarding race called S. When Reki's new classmate Longa turns out to be a former snowboarder with a surprising knack for skateboarding, the pair of them team up to take their skills to the next level, making new friends along the way. But when a mysterious and dangerous skater named Adam appears, obsessed with Longa's skill, it throws their relationship and their skateboarding into chaos. Part 1. Are you sure Skate isn't straight? There are several implied romantic pairings throughout the show. Reki and Longa are obvious, and then there's Cherry and Joe, who bicker like an old married couple, and there's also Adam, the psychopathic skateboarding supervillain, and his secretary, Tadashi. Although, to be honest, I ship Adam with court-mandated therapy. None of these characters are explicitly stated to be dating each other, no one says the words couple or boyfriend, and there's no kissing or other PDA. The characters' social interactions sure look like flirting sometimes, but they could also just be harmless platonic goofing around between bros.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
But just because there are no firmly established romantic relationships, it doesn't mean that there are no explicitly gay characters. Adam is unambiguously attracted to guys. He's not queer-coded, he's turbo-gay. He explicitly expresses romantic interest in Longa, presents him with flowers, and alludes to their hypothetical relationship being like a marriage.
A symbol of courtship and celebration. To you, to me, to us.
Stop! You violated the law.
There's also a scene in episode 8 where Longa is talking with his mom about his relationship with Reki, and it seems like he's confessing something a little more than friendship.
You like this person, right?
Yeah.
That's your truth. Those are the emotions you should share.
No way. That's embarrassing.
It's the only sure way to help you regain trust. Show her she's a lucky girl!
What girl?
There are certainly moments where these characters appear romantically interested in girls and women. But here's the thing, expressing interest in girls or women doesn't rule out that these characters might also be into guys. We shall not stand for bi erasure in this household. And then there's the subtext. And when I say subtext, I mean 1,000 point font subtext.
Reki, my love of skateboarding is because of you.
Anime is a visual medium, and like film, it's got a language. Part of that language is mise-en-scène.
Don't try to trick me with your fancy words!
Mise-en-scène is a term in filmmaking that explains how different parts of a scene converge to create a mood or convey an idea. Some things don't need to be explicitly stated for you to notice them. Look at this scene.
This feeling, it's exactly what I thought. I can hear it. Lately, it's like I lost sight of why I was skating. All I could see was who I was up against. But you helped me remember. Skating with you brought the excitement back. I'm having so much fun.
Really? I was thinking the same thing about you. Let's skate together tomorrow, and the day after that. I'll never stop again!
Let's do it. I want to skate infinitely with you.
The characters' facial expressions, their tone of voice, the framing and composition of the shots, the scenery behind them, the music, the lighting. You don't need to hear the characters' dialogue to know that this scene is romantic. It is very much on purpose that this scene looks more like a love confession than a casual hangout. There's this word that gets used a lot when TV shows or movies put gratuitous amounts of romantic subtext between two characters of the same gender without ever officially having those characters engage in a romantic relationship, and it's called queerbaiting. Part 2. Skate is not queerbait. According to this article by Irene Rubio, the term queerbaiting was born on Tumblr in the 2010s. This word often came up in reference to shows like Supernatural and Sherlock, which both featured male cast members who did a lot of staring into each other's eyes for extended periods of time.
Cass, Dean,
John.
shut up!
Irene defines queerbaiting as the insertion of a homoerotic subtext between two presumably heterosexual characters in a TV show, with the intention to attract a queer audience, but without risking alienating the more conservative audience, who might not want a queer relationship depicted on screen. The problem with labeling Skate the Infinity as queerbaiting is twofold. First, queerbaiting is supposed to be subtle. If you put no female romantic interest in your show and then add obnoxious amounts of tension between all the male cast members, the boomers are gonna notice. I also think there's a disconnect between our perception of what straight relationships and queer relationships are supposed to look like on screen. If a man and woman so much as glance at each other and blush, it's implied that they have romantic chemistry. But for two characters of the same gender, romantic relationships aren't considered valid unless there's an explicit confession or physical intimacy like a kiss. It's like queer couples have to prove their love for each other in order to be considered valid. Their relationships are subject to higher scrutiny and require explicit acknowledgement in order to count in the same way that straight relationships do. The second problem with labeling Skate as queerbait is because if you think this show is a sports anime with some pretty boys and romantic tension mixed in, you've completely missed the point. Skate isn't a skateboarding show with queer people. Skate is a queer show with skateboarding people. Part 3, Skateboarding is Symbolism for Love.
Hey, bitches and bros and non-binary hoes! And now, are you all ready to discover the truth?
Before I start, I want to specify that the hot take I'm about to drop only partly comes from my brain. Some of it comes from a hodgepodge of other various sources, in particular a Reddit post made by a deleted account, and Tumblr posts made by Sharkbath, Bayani, and Prezaki. I also took inspiration from Kodusagi's blog, which contains translated interviews with the show's creators. All of these posts have been linked in the description of this video. Now, let's talk about Adam, derogatory. There are some, problems with the way that Skate represents Adam's character. He was deliberately written to come off as predatory.
You're still a bud who hasn't blossomed yet. But when you do, that's when I will fall for you.
Right to jail, right away.
Because Adam is the only character who I'd consider explicitly gay, that's kind of an issue, because it could be construed to support the homophobic myth that gay men are predators. The story's narrative does go out of its way to recontextualize and humanize Adam's character, but I still don't buy his extremely brief redemption arc, and I don't think his bad behavior should be excused. Still, Adam's flaws alone aren't a good enough reason to write the show off as homophobic garbage, so please, let me cook. Now let's talk about Adam. To be more accurate, let's talk about Inosuke Shindo. By day, Inosuke is a straight-laced and professional politician. By night, he's the flamboyant and ruthless Adam, who wins skateboarding races using the power of sexual harassment. This Adam persona is extremely sensational and melodramatic. In a word, camp. Not only does he disguise himself with a costume and a mask, Inosuke even changes the intonation of his voice when he's cosplaying as Adam.
I'm fortunate, what can I say? I have the most wonderful aunts looking after me. Perhaps. Oh, so yummy. I don't get to smoke during work.
Inosuke is living a double life. He's in the closet. The name and face he shows his family and the general public is the fabrication. It's what he wants them to see. In his life as Inosuke, he bears the responsibility of his family name on his shoulders, and his 3 aunts who raised him are stifling, controlling, and encourage him to find a woman to marry.
All we need to know is if you've been tarnishing the Shindo family name. You know, we were just saying that it's high time for you to start searching for a bride.
Finding a woman worthy of the Shindo name requires diligence.
Now about your wedding, we've discussed it with the head of the family.
I hope you know this is all for your sake, Inosuke.
Meanwhile, at S, he can seek what he really wants, a worthy skateboarding opponent who can match his talents, his Eve, someone to love. Specifically, a guy, someone to love.
Forget your boring life. We're meant to live like kings. No more cruel expectations. No one giving you orders. In this life, the only commitment you'll have is to the thrill of skating.
Through a series of flashbacks, we learn about Inosuke's past. Tadashi, one of the servant's children, teaches him how to skateboard, and the two of them become close. As a teenager, Inosuke makes friends with delinquents Cherry and Joe, although he hides his face when they go out together out of fear that being caught might damage his family's reputation. Inosuke's skateboarding grows more and more violent as his family puts more and more pressure on him.
Hey, are you okay?
Adam! Why are you doing something like this?
Isn't there someone made for me?
Skateboarding becomes his only outlet, but that all comes to an end one day when his father destroys his board and forbids him from ever skating again.
I've looked the other way for way too long. You can't keep pulling that kind of crap.
I'm out of time. I'm leaving for America first thing tomorrow. I can't keep playing on the ramps with you guys. It's time for me to move on.
This feels reminiscent of a parent from a prominent family discovering their son is gay and forbidding him from ever engaging in a relationship with a guy again. To make matters worse, Tadashi, who taught Inosuke to skate and shared a meaningful relationship with him, fails to intervene or stand up for Inosuke against his father.
But Mr. Aichiro... I'm not interested in complaints, so save it.
Sir, of course I have no opinion.
From that point on, Tadashi is the only one who knows about or supports Inosuke's double life. This sounds a lot like someone with internalized homophobia blaming himself for turning someone gay. Maybe this is why Tadashi enables Inosuke's recklessness and violent behavior.
I need to head to Crazy Rock. Arrange transportation.
At a time like this? You're sure? I'll have it prepared, sir.
Good doggy.
He feels guilty for robbing Inosuke of a chance to lead what he would consider to be a normal life. But Adam isn't the only one who's hiding. You know who else puts on a persona when they skate? Shadow, Cherry, and Joe. Shadow's real name is Hiromu, a name which is more often given to girls than boys in Japan. By day, Hiromu is a mild-mannered employee at a flower shop, and by night, he puts on a face full of makeup and plays the role of a wrestling heel. Cherry's real name is Kaoru, and he works a day job as a calligrapher. By night, he also puts on a mask and a costume. Joe is always shirtless when he's skating at S, but Kojiro, his alter ego, normally dresses in ways that conceal his tattoo. All of these adult characters are leading double lives. They separate their skateboarding lives from their regular day-to-day lives. Sure, it makes sense for a politician like Inosuke to deny participating in an illegal skateboarding race, but there's not really much of a reason for Cherry or Joe or Shadow to hide their skateboarding hobby, unless their skateboarding hobby is a metaphor for their sexuality. It is a major plot point that S is supposed to be a secret. It's literally underground, it takes place at midnight, you have to be invited to get in, and these adult skaters get upset if S is mentioned in public.
Excuse me, Cherry! Cherry!
Do you know him? He called you Cherry.
Never seen him before in my life. What's the most important rule?
Don't talk about us off the mountain.
Cherry blossom only exists on that mountain. Shall I assume you came here to fight with me?
Now let's look at the younger characters, Reki, Longa, and Mia. None of them use different names or disguise themselves when they roll up to S. It is true that Longa gets nicknamed Snow after his first race at S, but this is not a name he gives himself, it's a name given to him. So why is it that the only ones who don't feel the need to lead double lives or hide their interest in skateboarding are kids? It could be a reference to the change in mentality that younger generations have about queer identities. Thanks to the recent cultural shift towards acceptance, younger people who identify as queer now face fewer barriers than the gay community did a decade ago. Adam's dad literally lights his skateboard on fire in front of him to teach him a lesson. Reki's and Longa's parents accept their interest in skateboarding, so they don't feel a need to hide it. Mia's brief character arc is all about how his friends abandon him after he gets good at skateboarding, but he starts to come out of his shell when he finds real friends at S.
It doesn't matter whether we win or lose. We're still your friends who love to skate.
Found family is a trope that's extremely common in stories about queer people because so many queer people get rejected by their families and then later find meaningful connections with others in queer communities. In Sk8, skateboarding symbolizes love, in particular queer love. The show clearly demonstrates that skateboarding is risky, dangerous, and in many cases forbidden, which is reflective of stereotypical, bigoted perceptions about gay relationships. Adam's character arc highlights this comparison, and so does the difference between how the adult characters and the teenagers choose to conceal or openly declare their love for skateboarding. But I also think that the parallels between skateboarding and love go deeper. Each character's individual style of skateboarding is exactly the same as their attitudes towards love and romantic relationships. Adam calls skateboarding a ritual of love.
He is the matador of love.
Love?
It has to do with his view on skating. He calls it a ritual of love.
In flashbacks to his childhood, we're shown that his aunts punished him with violence and told him that it was their way of showing love for him.
This is for your own good. I hope you understand that we aren't doing this because we're angry with you, Inosuke.
On the contrary, we're doing it because we love you so much.
Thank you for loving me.
Adam's skateboarding is violent and downright abusive because it is reflective of what he thinks love is: pain. Shadow's style of skateboarding is specifically tied to a change in his appearance. Even when he's not at S, like on the beach episode, he always takes time to do his makeup before he skates. Not only that, but his skating persona has a completely different personality than how he usually acts. Unlike Adam, Shadow's skating persona doesn't seem like a closeted version of his true self. We see Shadow expressing his real thoughts and feelings when he isn't in disguise.
I never once doubted your capabilities.
Remember that time you said you had a thing for strong people or whatever? I found a cool place where I can work out and train myself. I'm like ridiculously strong now. And I really want to prove it to you soon.
Shadow's skating persona feels more like a drag persona. I don't necessarily think Shadow identifies as queer, but I do think that skateboarding is an outlet for him to explore his identity. While there are queer people who do drag, not everyone who participates identifies as queer. People do drag because it's a fun way to explore gender and identity. It's often exaggerated and flashy, sometimes even satirically so. Shadow's alter ego is extremely performative and hypermasculine. It's an outlet through which he can explore different sides of himself. Cherry's skateboarding is defined by his reliance on a computer, which makes calculations and predictions for him based on the numbers. How is this related to his viewpoint on love? In flashbacks to their delinquent teenage years, there's a strong implication that Cherry and Adam might have had romantic feelings for one another, or at the very least they were attracted to each other. But Adam grows violent, and they part on bad terms. Perhaps Cherry's reliance on cold, hard calculations comes for a desire for stability and predictability. He was hurt by Adam's cruelty, dismissiveness, and sudden departure, so rather than recklessly following his emotions like he did in his youth, Cherry decides to take minimal risks to avoid getting hurt again.
What a wuss. You're skating according to your calculation? Good luck. There's no risk, there's no fun.
Joe explicitly states his connection between boarding and romance.
Joe's a freaking hero! Persistence is essential in both skating and seduction.
Although Joe and Cherry's relationship kind of feels like it's happening in the background, there are hints here and there about their past and present feelings for each other. While Cherry is prickly and cold, Joe is very protective of him. Although they're always fighting, it's clear that Joe cares deeply about Cherry, even when Cherry rejects him.
Cherry!
Back off, needy gorilla, you're smothering me. Don't fret about Adam, I'll ruin him.
5 minutes later.
This persistence Joe is talking about could relate to how he's continued to care for and love Cherry throughout the years, even though he's been persistently rejected.
At least we got this. We're not alone. Know what I mean? Kaoru?
Reki sees skateboarding as his version of happiness. He explicitly tells us this in the very opening scene of the show.
Is happiness being rich? Hooking up with hot girls? Getting into the best schools? Climbing up social ladders? I'm sure that's what a bunch of people want in life. But that's not what gets me going.
When he meets Longa and finally finds someone who he can skate together with, he's overjoyed. But when Longa turns out to be a prodigy and starts surpassing him, Reki feels inadequate and develops an inferiority complex. He's afraid that Longa will leave him behind. Reki is so distraught that he ends up being the one to push Longa away first.
Hey, Reki. How's it going?
Hi.
Guess what? First round's done.
Great. Not like that has anything to do with me.
This behavior is also something that happens in romantic relationships. If one person is afraid of being abandoned, they might push away their partner first to avoid being rejected themselves. But during this scene that resembles a confession, Longa promises Reki that he wants to skate with him forever, and Reki's able to regain his confidence. He finds his happiness with skateboarding and with Longa is not tied to his skill, but to the fact that they're skating together. As for Longa, he's not initially interested in skateboarding, but after Reki introduces him to the sport, he's reminded of snowboarding with his dad, a memory he holds dear, especially now that his dad is gone. As he and Reki continue to skate together, Longa develops a real love for skateboarding that goes beyond his memory of his dad.
Reki, my love of skateboarding is because of you.
However, when he and Reki start to grow distant, Longa realizes that he isn't having fun. His heart isn't beating with excitement when Reki isn't there to cheer him on or skate alongside him.
Reki. Oh yeah. I'm skateboarding right now. I know this feeling. I remember this.
It's not until the two of them reconcile that Longa's able to feel the joy and excitement of skating again. Both Longa and Reki's love for skateboarding is intertwined with their feelings for each other. They don't want to skate alone, they want to be together. In the grand finale during the final showdown, there's this moment where Longa finally gets the point across to Adam that skating isn't about winning, it's about having fun and connecting with others.
It's no fun to do all by yourself.
When Adam finally gets it, his mask falls off, and he stops trying to win the race through violence. He skates just for the enjoyment of it.
But he reminded me everything I learned from you.
Longa has changed his mind about love. It's not about dominance, cruelty, or pain. It's about connecting with other people. Queerness is not only about love and romance and intimacy, it's about community and accepting people for who they are. Like love, skateboarding requires courage, trust, and vulnerability. In order to be a part of a relationship, you have to be brave enough to put your feelings on the line. You might get hurt, but if you're too focused on your fear of falling, you'll never get to experience all the joy and happiness that comes with being in love. In conclusion, Skate is the gayest anime I've ever seen. In the summer of 2022, Skate the Infinity Season 2 was confirmed by Studio Bones. I'm stoked for another season of shredding and angsty adolescent romance. Here's my bingo card with all my predictions for Season 2. If Reki doesn't win a freaking beef, I'm gonna skateboard off a cliff!